Welcome, friends. This is Brevity Sports, coming at you from our caves where we talk major news in major sports. Here with my co-host, Big Z, and myself, Fredo Lay. Welcome, everybody. We are back. Welcome, friends. We are here. It is Brevity Sports. I'm here with my boy, Big Z. Big Z, say hi to the people.
I'm bummed out.
I'm bummed out.
I'm bummed. The Lakers just got swept out of the building, out of their own building. That hurts. It hurts. But I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the comeback they made. No one believed that they would get this far. Not even me. Okay, I'm not going to lie and say I did. So it was fun. It was definitely a fun ride watching them come back and beating all the odds and getting to the Western Conference Finals. But props to the Nuggets, man. Props to the Nuggets. How you doing, man?
Yo, props to the Nuggets, dude. Props to the Nuggets. They played a heck of a series. They got the sweep. Of course, we were taking homer takes because we're Laker fans. Like, what do you want us to do? You know what I mean? We can't go against the Lakers.
But
you know,
in our defense, the Lakers were in all four of those games in the fourth quarter. It's not like the Celtics are just getting blown out and activating Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
You know, like the Lakers, a few plays
they were there.
Go their way. They hit a couple shots. It's a 2-2 series or something like that. But yeah, they at least they were competitive. At least I can say that. I'll go 100%. Down. I'll go down proud.
100%, man. I mean, you never want to see your own team get swept. That's tough. Like that was a little bit tough to watch, especially in their building. But we have a great episode coming for you tonight. Obviously, we're talking playoffs, we're talking NBA, we're talking hockey. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball. Before we do, Big Z, we were talking about something before we started, and we said we wouldn't do it, but I'm curveballing it, and we're doing it.
Oh.
I want to know why Lamar Jackson is like so talked about. Like why like there's guys out there right now saying he's going to have a career year. Like I get it. He's a talent in terms of his ability to run with the ball. But when I look at his playoff record and I see he's lost more than he's won, I see that he hasn't gotten that deep into the playoffs. Like, am I missing something for this guy being one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Because I mean, stat wise, when you look at his passer ratings, when you look at his ability to throw the ball down the field, I don't see it. And I get it.
Yeah.
Some of his receivers have been less than. His receiving core has not been fantastic. But in terms of looking at his past, to say this guy is an elite quarterback, not running the ball. That's not what I'm discussing. I'm talking about being able to throw the ball down the field accurately. I just feel like I'm missing something. I'm be honest.
Hey man, I feel the same exact way. It's really weird how the narrative has flipped on him. Like everyone shared the same sentiment that we have. You know, his whole career, the guy cannot win when it matters most. He can't throw in the pocket. He extends plays with his legs. He's super athletic. Great.
100%.
But he can't do what Tom Brady can do. He can't do what so many other quarterbacks can do. And then he gets in this contract dispute and everyone just hops on the bandwagon. And all of a sudden he says that I'm going to have a career year. I'm going to throw for 6,000 yards and people believe him. Like, okay, that's the evidence because he said it. Because Odell Beckham Jr. is on the team now, a guy who has 2 torn ACLs.
Boy.
Like, look, you guys can say all you want that we are hating on this guy, but until he proves us wrong, we're going to continue hating on him because he has not done anything in football and championship. And the way we grade guys is how many championships you have and how many playoff games that you've won. And he has done nothing. And for all of a sudden people to hop on his bandwagon and say, he's going to be a top 2 QB in this league. I don't see it. I agree 100% with you. It just seems super weird. And people are just, they want to do what is super popular right now. And what's the hot thing, the hot take. But I don't know, man. In December, I think we're going to have a different conversation. I think that those guys who flip-flop to him are going to flip-flop back to what we're saying, in my opinion. If he proves us wrong, good for him and good for the league. But I just don't see it. Prove to me that you can stay in the pocket for a full season and make those passes when it counts. And don't tell me that you haven't had receivers. You have Mark Andrews, one of the best tight end, wide receiver, whatever you can call him. And not a lot of teams have a talent like that. And you have a great coaching staff. So like, don't give me that excuse that you haven't ever had any wide receivers.
All right. I had to do this just because I'm genuinely curious. So I just went real quick. 2018 to 2022, right? This guy played in 16 games, 15 games, 15 games, 12 games, 12 games. Okay. So keep that in mind. He threw for 1,200 yards, 3,100 yards, barely broke 3,000, like barely by 100 yards. Okay. 2,700 yards, 2,800 yards, 2,200 yards. And you look at his rating, 84.5. He had one good year of 113.3 in 2019, 99.3 in 2020, 87 and 91 finishing off last year's. So, I mean, I'm doubling down here. I don't understand the idea that this guy is elite when you look at accuracy. I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. I was reading articles before we got on and I was like, man, is there anything to talk about the NFL? And I saw him. I was like, I just can't move away from this guy. I just don't understand what this conversation is. This guy deserves to be paid like Jay. Like we just saw Jalen Hurts carry the Eagles to the Super Bowl. People might say, well, they had a really good team. Look at their defense. Look at what they were without him. When Minshew came in, the Eagles could not win a game. Like they looked so lost. Like Minshew does not squat 800 pounds to carry and get that 1 yard every time they do a QB sneak. You know what I mean? Like when you look at certain guys, it's a bit like Jimmy G, right? We all knew that Jimmy G's time was done with the Niners when Brock Purdy came in and balled and they looked better then, right? Like Brock Purdy immediately showed out and said, look, Jimmy G, I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not, a starter in the league, but for Brock Purdy to come in and prove to everybody, I can throw, I can get a good QBR, I can do all of it. I can make a deep run in the playoffs. I have a cool, collected, calm head. And yet I've never seen that from Lamar. So I just don't get it. I just don't get it. But hey, to each their own. Hopefully the Ravens are right.
Talking about Jimmy G, 1 second. Let me just throw off his stats if we're comparing here.
Okay.
2019, Jimmy G had almost 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, a 102 passer rating. 2020 got hurt, 92.4 passer rating. 2021, 3,800 yards, a 98.7 passer rating. And then last year, 2,400 yards, a 103 passer rating. So to me, if we're going by that, he's a lot better than Lamar Jackson.
And again,
obviously doesn't have the legs and not the athleticism,
right.
Blah, blah, blah. But
let's talk about the legs. Let's talk about the legs.
Yeah.
That is what look at Patrick Mahomes is so effective because look at what he can do. Because there's somebody out there listening to this and saying, you guys are discounting what he does with his legs. You guys are not talking about his stats, his rushing touchdowns. I'm telling you right now that at the end of the day, the likelihood of that winning you a Super Bowl, it's just not the reality that I've experienced. When you look at a guy like Mahomes won the Super Bowl. He was down. He was on one leg. Mahomes winning that Super Bowl came down to him being able to throw the ball. Jalen Hurts, you had a mobile quarterback on the other side. He loses, right? He loses. So at the end of the day, at some point, your quarterback is either going to have to sit out, as we've seen with Lamar Jackson, 12 games, or he's going to have to be able to sit in that pocket and sling the ball. And that's where Mahomes, even if Mahomes can't be mobile, which he is incredibly mobile. I'm not saying he's not extremely talented. I mean, everything we've seen, but his ability to also stand in the pocket and deliver. Like when you're able to stand in the pocket and deliver, that's when I start to say, you know what, this guy is a franchise guy. This guy deserves to get paid. This guy can do it both ways. He can beat you however you want. When you look at guys like Kyler Murray, right? His inability to throw from the pocket. If you flush him out, he's out on his A game. If you keep him in there, he's not great. Russell Wilson, again, for years, I mean, he just had a really bad year, let's be honest. But for years with the Seahawks, his ability to extend the play, throw the ball from the pocket, he could stand, he could deliver. He was making great passes. Of course, we all know how they lost that Super Bowl to the Patriots. Hey, again, at some point, though, you're going to have to throw the ball, right? And you look at the last few, like, actual Super Bowl winners. Okay. Those teams were led by guys that could sit and throw the ball, that could sit in the pocket and deliver a good throw. That's all I'm saying. We're moving on. Here we go. The NBA playoffs. I'm not sad because I think, like you said, Big Z, the Lakers were never supposed to be here. Like they were not, they started off 10 losses in a row. I know you and I were talking about it. I was like, oh, there's another season we're not watching NBA because the Lakers are super bad. And all of a sudden they make the playoffs. They beat the play-ins. They handle the Grizzlies pretty handily. They handle the Warriors pretty handily. And we're thinking like, okay, maybe there's a shot. And then they ran into, in my opinion, the real MVP, the best player in the league at this point, the Joker. I mean, this guy, watching him make shots, not just one, not just two, but in this game alone, this final closeout game, game 4, we're filming this on Monday night. Watching him make shot after shot with a hand on his face, off balance, just making buckets. Just absolutely crazy. Crazy.
Going through double teams, fading away 35 feet from the hoop, hitting nothing but net, rebounding, doing tip-ins. Like, the guy is just insane. He's a pleasure to watch. The Nuggets, they suffer from the fact that they're from Denver, so they don't have the biggest fan base. They don't have the biggest media market. So the ESPNs of the world, the ABCs, they don't put them on national television, right?
Right.
And so for them to get to showcase their talents in front of a national audience, especially when the Lakers are playing against them, you have everyone tuning in when that happens. That's such a great thing for them to happen. And now they're probably going to get a lot more recognition next year. You said it. Jokic is by far better than Embiid right now. One guy's going to the finals. One guy has never made it past the semifinals. And that's not a knock on Embiid, but it just shows you that Jokic has something extra that Embiid just doesn't have. He's able to, dive deeper into it, and he just has a way better all-around game. He just passed Wilt Chamberlain for the most triple doubles in playoff history tonight.
Wow.
Which is huge. Wilt Chamberlain is one of the best players to ever play the game of basketball. And that's saying something. Jokic still has probably 10 seasons left. But beyond Jokic, Murray is a superstar. We saw him in the bubble. That's really when he came on the scene, and he did really well. They ran into a good Lakers team. The next season, he tears his ACL and kind of starts that recovery process. And he came out in an interview the other day, and he said that he really thought the Nuggets were going to trade him after he tore his ACL. He just thought that they may have not believed in him anymore, that his time was done in Denver. But super grateful that they believed in him. And now look, it's paying the dividends, right? He did super well this series. Game 3, the Lakers could not stop him. He scored 30 points in the first half, 23 in the first quarter. He had 25 points tonight. Aaron Gordon, again, 22 points. We talked about it 2 rounds or last round, how complete this Nuggets roster is and how good it is and how these guys can just knock down all the shots, all the open shots. Jokic doesn't have to do it all by himself. If he's off, Murray's going to, pick it up for him. If they're off, the rest of the team is going to do well. Michael Porter Jr., these guys are super well coached. Props to Michael Malone for, going through the trials with this team. And that's why I think they deserve this to get to the finals, because they went through so many bad loss after bad loss. They were supposed to be good. They were supposed to be in the finals, but they always bowed out super early in the playoffs. Now they get to have their chance. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and now they get to play probably the Heat, and I think they win in 5. Like, this team is just that good.
I mean, the way that they're playing, it's almost impossible to stop, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you stop the Joker and Murray? Like, the Lakers, they stop them for moments. But you just can't keep them down. You can stop them for moments. You can stop them for a few plays. But the idea that you're going to keep them down an entire game, it just seems impossible, especially with the Joker making these incredible shots. I mean, when I was looking at his stats, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists. That's silly. It's a silly stat line. Just his ability to dominate. We talk about a guy like Anthony Davis and how he's going to match up. And we felt like before the series, if the Lakers were going to have any shot at all, Anthony Davis was going to have to cancel out the Joker, and he couldn't. He didn't come close. They seemed like they were on 2 different planets. One of them is unfortunately for Anthony Davis, unfortunately for him, this played out exactly like the storyline, that Anthony Davis is an aging player, probably past his prime. And the Joker is right now. The Joker is the man. The Joker is the best in the league. And that's what it looked like. It looked like an extremely incredible player versus a guy who's really good on defense. Offensively, just doesn't have it anymore. And I know there was a game 1 that Anthony Davis went off. After that, 20 points here, 20 points there. He was not the dominant force throughout an entire game that he needed to be.
30-point guy. Like he
He's
never
not.
was. In
He's just
college, he wasn't. He was a defensive
right.
guy. And give
He's
him
a
props
defensive
for
guy.
playing great defense, but
He great, did fine.
The Lakers cannot expect him. That's just not his game.
Nope.
That's not his game. So
it's not. We were just hoping that his defense would be able to lock down the Joker a lot more than it did, which he never locked down the Joker.
I'm surprised, but that just shows you, because Anthony Davis, the first 2 rounds, he shut down the Warriors offense. The Grizz, like some of the top 5 defense offenses in the league, he was able to shut them down single-handedly, and it just shows you how good Jokic is. It's incredible to see. Like the guy's just flipping shots like over his head. It just goes in. Like it's really fun to watch. He plays basketball the right way, and he just puts his head down and plays. That's what I also like about him. You know, like, yeah, he talks to the refs sometimes, but who doesn't? Like, but he doesn't really complain that much, and he just plays the game of basketball. You can tell he loves it. And I'm happy for them. I'm also, it's good. It's a good story for the NBA.
I think whoever comes out of the East, I don't think it matters. Like, as we move on to talk about the Boston Celtics versus Miami Heat, as we move on to this, let me just say kudos to the Heat. The Heat are balling. I mean, they are just out of control. They had one of the worst offenses all year long. Something's clicked. Something's changed. They look amazing. And yet I don't think they have a shot at the Nuggets. I mean, I'm sorry. I know Eric Spoelstra is the man right now. I know everybody loves him because of what he's doing with his team and what he's been able to figure out. But when you look at this Nuggets team as they move forward, I just don't know that you're going to slow them down, man. I really don't. I mean, like you just said, Anthony Davis is defensively still extremely elite. Yeah. He is still that dude on the defensive side of the ball, and the Joker made him look suspect at best. Right? Suspect at best. So now you look at these two teams, right? The Heat and the Celtics now on the Eastern side. I mean, you got one team, the Celtics, that's struggling to find any kind of identity. Who is our superstar? Who is not our superstar? Who is the guy? And we thought that Tatum had kind of like done away with that big old 50-point game. We thought it was like, this is my team now, but they just still completely, they're lacking an identity. And then in the one game that they were primed to win, you got Williams waking up Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy said it best after the game. Jimmy's like, look, you can talk to a lot of people. I'm not the dude that you want to talk to. Right. I'm not that dude that you want to talk to. I'm just not, I don't know. What are you seeing over there in that series?
I just see a Celtics team that is they just don't care. Like there's no way that they're going to win tomorrow night. Like you said, man, you pinned it down. They don't have an identity. Jaylen Brown or Tatum, they don't know whose team it is, and they can't figure it out. And that's going to get you in trouble. To be honest, if it wasn't for Tatum, I mean, the Sixers should have won that series, to be honest. Like they were up 3-2 going home in game 6. They blew it. They choked. But it's also a testament to the staff, not just the coach, up above. You need to do something to break this team up and get a different star in or fill out your roster a little bit more. You probably need to ship out Brown or Tatum. I would do Brown, in my opinion. Just because, you can't just try to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, right? We've seen that so many times in sports. Like people say, well, the Nuggets did that. No, the Nuggets, they built around Murray and Jokic. They brought in different guys to fill out their roster, guys who complemented them. The Celtics haven't done that. They brought in an aging Al Horford to say, yeah, this is going to fill the need that we need on defense. No, the guy's in his late 30s, and Tatum and Brown, they're great young players, but they just are too similar. We've said it this whole playoff run. They're too similar. They don't have a killer mentality. They really don't. At times, yes, it comes, but they should have no business going game 6 with the Atlanta Hawks. Like that's where this all started. There's no way that Trae Young should have taken over in that game 5. Like, I know they won the series, they won in Atlanta, but like that just kind of opened up the door a little bit into who they are as a team, their identity. And they just don't have that killer mentality, that killer instinct to really win the whole thing. So break it up. blow it up, get rid of Brown, and really fill out your roster, because if you re-sign him, this guy is going to be a $300 million contract. Tatum's going to be a $300 million contract, and you're stuck for the next 5 years because you can't spend any money on anyone else. So just figure it out, make the hard decision this summer, and start doing something. When it comes to Mazzulla, I think you should keep him. He's a rookie head coach. He got them this far. You can't just keep firing coaches. That would be their fourth coach in the last 4 years. For it to be a Celtics, the franchise as the Celtics, to have 4 coaches in 4 years is super embarrassing. You keep him, let him build his own identity, build his staff, let the players respect him more. Because if you keep bringing new guys in, these players are not going to respect you. So keep him, let him do his thing, and let him go through some trials. We all saw with Eric Spoelstra back in the day with the Heat. LeBron literally went to Pat Riley's office and said, I don't like this guy. We've been 20 games together. You should fire him. And Pat Riley said, no, like, players don't run this. I run this. Go back to the court, do your thing, and look at where Spoelstra is now with the Heat, number 8 seed on the precipice of another NBA Finals appearance. So, good luck in the offseason, Celtics, but Jimmy G buckets is awesome. I mean, the rest of that team.
I think the worst part about this loss last night for the Celtics, right, before we get off of this topic, I think the worst part about this is if I looked at you and I told you, hey, Jimmy Butler scored 16 points, you look back at me and say, oh, the Celtics won. Good. They're back in the series, 2-1, and yet they got blown out 128-102. Like, their inefficiency is now waking up the rest of the Heat players. And I do hope it continues, because I'd love to see a great series between them and the Nuggets. I'd love to see them put up a fight. Maybe that thing goes 7 somehow, like force it, push it, because the bench of the Heat is starting to ball. You got random guys starting to really ball, come out of themselves. And again, this is all without Tyler Hero, which is even that, it's that much more impressive. Look, I'm looking at this Miami team. I agree with you. For a Celtics team to go down 2-0 at home, and then to go to Miami and to lose that game the way they did, I also think this thing is over. And I think it's over simply because when you go home, like, if they were going home, right, the Lakers, right, they came home when they lost game 3, you knew, right? You knew we were in trouble. It was going to be a long road back if there was at all. The Celtics were in the same exact spot, but they knew they had to come out firing. They knew, because they weren't going home. Lakers, there's a little bit of lax, like, we're going to win because it's our home court. We're going to defend our home court, right? You have that advantage. The Celtics should have been gassed up. We lost home court. We screwed up. Let's get fired up. We know it's going to be hostile. We know there's going to be energy. We got to bring it. We got to find a way. We got to get this thing going. I mean, don't get me wrong. Losing through game 3 both ways is bad. As a Laker fan, I am proud of them. You never want to get swept, right? You want to at least win one, squeak out one.
Yeah, but
the Celtics, I think they're right behind them. I think the Celtics are right behind them. The difference for me is the Lakers, when you look across and you see the way that Murray and a Joker are playing right now. I mean, if they sustain this, they're going to be a dynasty. If they can, I'm not saying they can, but I'm saying if they can't, if this level of play is sustained, who's going to beat that? I mean, it's silly. It's silly.
The thing with the Lakers is that they were in all those games. Like, they lost it in the last few minutes of each game, but they were in all 4 games. The Celtics, they benched their starters the whole fourth quarter last game. Like, they gave up like that. Right. And the players weren't ballsy enough to tell their coach, hey, no, let me come back. Like, let me go back in the game. Like, I think that we can come back. No, that just shows that's their mentality, man. They're just defeated. Right. And that's just like, you need a culture change. Like, something needs to be done, and I think it starts with the players at this point.
Tell you what, I don't know if there's something in the water or what, but there is just all sorts of blowouts happening. You got the Knights up 2-0 in hockey, the NHL playoffs. You knew we were going to get there. We love us some NHL playoffs. These hits are wild. Like, there's so many hits happening right now. Everybody's getting hit. When you're watching hockey during the regular season, right? Like, there's moments where you're like, oh, hit that guy. Like, oh, finish that check. And they don't, because they know it's a long season. And they know that if they go lay the smackdown on that guy, there's a chance they're also going to take a beating, right? Like, when you hit somebody, you still feel that contact. So when it's game 11 of 92, it's like, oh man, whatever, dude, like, let him go. But right now, everybody's finishing checks. Everybody's finishing hits. And in one series, you got the Stars. And I'm going to be honest with you, Big Z, I really feel for these guys. I mean, they're down 2-0 to the Knights. You want to talk about being in it in the fourth quarter, being in it close. Yeah. They've lost both games in overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of a more demoralizing way to lose a series than both in overtime. For those who don't know, it's not like the NBA where there's like a set time limit. In hockey, you play 20-minute periods, and who first person to score, first team to score, they win. So if they score,
Sudden
it's
death.
over. There's no chance of rebuttal. It's sudden death. It makes everything very just high risk, high reward. It's awesome. But the Knights have a commanding lead, and I don't think they're going to give it up. I really don't.
No.
Dallas is playing good hockey, so I could see them extending this on some level. I really could. But at the end of the day, and again, technically, if you're a Dallas fan, right? If you're listening to this podcast, you're a Dallas, you're a Stars fan. All you're thinking right now is the Knights did what they were supposed to do, right? They took the first two, they defended their home, and you're thinking credit to our boys. They were able to send it to overtime, right? They needed overtime to beat us twice in their house. We're going to bring it home. We're going to tie it up. That's got to be your mentality. Do I see it happening? Probably not. But I picked the Knights. Once I saw them dismantle the Oilers last year's series, it was a bit like the Nuggets, right? Like, even though we picked the Lakers, when I watched them dismantle the Suns, I was like, oh boy, this team is really good. Vegas is really good. They're good.
They're just doing they did what they're supposed to do. And even though they won in overtime, it's a close game. When it's in the playoffs and we're this deep in the playoffs, the teams that are the better teams are the ones who can win those last minute of the game, right? Like in the crunch time, right? You can play super well all game, but the good teams are the ones who take advantage of the mistakes of the others. And that's what
100%.
Vegas has done. They're playing well. And like you said, we're going back to Dallas now. Dallas has a chance to, beat on their home ice and to win those games. But you're going to have to take game 3 because as we see in the NBA, if you don't take
don't lose game 3. Don't lose game 3.
We're done because then it gives the team who's up 3-0 just all right. Like, we're just going to finish you. like we gave you a chance. Like, this is the game that you're like Vegas has you winning. Like, everyone thinks that you're going to win. If you lose that one, okay, like, we're coming for your throat, like that's just the mentality is. That's what Florida did. They're up 3-0. Right. They won their first 2 games.
You don't want to be down 3-0. You don't want to have to reverse sweep.
Kachuk with 2 overtime winners on the road. That's the thing that's crazy. Florida, the team that no one thought was going to do well, the team that scratched into the playoffs, they win the first 2 games of the Eastern Conference Finals on the road in overtime. Kachuk gets both of those game winners, and then they win tonight 1-0. That this series is over. Like, it just seems that everything is going Florida's way, and I'm picking them to win the whole thing. I think it's their year, man. This is what happens in baseball. Like in hockey, it's like the only two sports where you have a team that just claws in at the last second and they just catch fire and they just ride that momentum and no one can stop them. No matter how good on paper the other team, how much better the other team is, it just, no one can stop what's supposed to happen. And I just feel like this is Florida's year, man. I know Vegas is doing super well, but they're going to run into an angry cat. The Panthers are going to win.
Let me tell you what's happened in this series. And you made this comparison. A while back. You said you liked Florida. You're going for them because that was more like the Kings, right? The 8th seed when the Kings won their Stanley Cup back in 2012, 6th seed in 2014 when they won that year. But you talked about how they got hot. So the Florida's kind of like that. So you were pulling for them and you wanted them to win. You wanted them to get it done. In the same way, we had a guy between the pipes called Jonathan Quick, and Jonathan Quick burst onto the scene in a big way, and everybody found it out in the playoffs. This dude was a different dog. This guy was a different animal. My boy, Bobby Bobrovsky, this goalie for the Panthers in game 1, my man comes out and has 63 saves.
Yeah.
Great. Do you know how many saves? Like, that is a stupid amount of saves. The rest of the games, he at least came back down to earth. He had 37 saves or 38 or 39, whatever it was. And then again, 30-something saves. This guy is standing on his head, okay? He's faced over 30 shots every game. That is a lot of shots. It's not as if the Hurricanes are not getting shots. He is absolutely standing on his head. And the Hurricanes are doing everything they can possibly do.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter. Tonight, again, 32 shots, 32 saves. Bobby is standing on his head. This dude is out of control. You cannot beat this guy. There was several saves tonight. As I was watching the game, as I went back, I was watching highlights. I was watching the game live for spans of it, for parts of it. It'd be a cross ice one-timer, and this dude would just get like a random shoulder to it, throw his face in the way. Like he's doing whatever he's got to do to keep the puck out, and it's working. It is working, and the Hurricanes just cannot figure this dude out. I mean, you're telling me you had 60 some odd shots on goal, and you lost?
That's demoralizing.
That's absolutely demoralizing right now, and they're in Florida, right? So if you're a Carolina fan, you had a great run. You made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. You ran into the buzzsaw that is Florida. Because if you're a Hurricanes fan, right now you're sitting there thinking, like, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? They had more shots than the Panthers, and they still lost the game. I mean, it's just you at some point, the reality starts to set in. What do we got to do? That there's nothing you can do, right? When you shoot a team 32-17 and you lose.
Yep.
What else can you do? Their goalie is hot. Bobby's not letting you have this one, dude. Florida's going to sweep. You called it. I still don't think they got the firepower against the Knights, but we'll see. We'll see, dude. We'll see how that goes down. I might be a little, but hey, I mean, shoot, if you're saving 60-something goals, I mean, doesn't matter how many times they shoot the puck, apparently.
Exactly. You always have a chance if you're not letting any of them in, obviously. So
that's it, dude. That's it. So we're gonna have you already know we're gonna have a real fun episode for you next time, because next time we're gonna be setting up the NHL finals. We're gonna be setting up the NBA finals.
Can't believe we're already at the finals
episode.
Almost.
We're already at the finals.
It's crazy, man. Like from the first round.
Fun run.
It's been a fun journey.
We've all the way from March Madness of you and I just absolutely having the worst brackets in the history of bracket makers ever. To now missing like majority of our picks for the NHL playoffs. I was so convinced with the rest of the world, the Bruins are going to be the Eastern Conference Finals. They've been sitting at home for like 2 weeks.
We were all convinced.
We're all convinced, dude.
We're embarrassed. We're embarrassing.
We're embarrassing. We are what we are, dude. We're just embarrassing. Before we end this podcast, though, we got to do it. Got to talk a little bit of baseball. Got to talk a little bit of the MLB.
It's officially baseball season after the Lakers are out. It's officially Dodger season now.
It's officially Dodger season. But before we get to the Dodgers, and we won't always talk Dodgers, don't freak out if you're a fan. Like, oh, great, Dodgers, here we go. No, we promise we'll keep it to a limit. But we'll also talk about a lot of other teams like the Baltimore Orioles. Now, listen, people, you would not know this because you have not known Big Z for as long as I've known him. Last year, when they still weren't even that good, like they still weren't even that good, right? They barely missed the playoffs, I believe. Big Z was sitting here talking about this team, saying this team is going to be really, really good. The Orioles are going to be legitimately good, and here they are. I mean, they are absolutely balling. They got the second best record in all of Major League Baseball. That's right, the Orioles. And it's not like, hey, in May, it's like, okay, season just started. We're almost to June, right? We're just about there. And they are still a top baseball. So,
and they're doing it in the AL East. They're doing it in the best division in baseball. It's awesome, man. Like, they're young guys. Last year's they're all their rookie years, and now they're coming on the scene and they're just proving everyone right. Like, this is the reason why the Orioles tanked so many years, to get all these number one draft picks and to have them pick us because we're this good and we're going to bring this franchise back into relevancy. Like, that's what these guys are playing. Like, but that confidence, I love it. Adley Rutschman, their catcher, the guy's a beast. He's going to be a top 5 catcher when his career is said and done. He already is a top 10 catcher. I love what they've done. Their pitching is great. They went up and they got Kyle Gibson. They got Tyler Wells. They have a lot of guys that, have really had not terrible career, not bad careers, but just kind of been average. And the Orioles, said, we see something in you and you're going to deliver for us. They have a great closer. That's what a lot of teams have gone away from. They've kind of done closer by committee, which I don't like. I think that you should have a guy that just, when he comes in, he's going to shut it down. And they have that guy. They have Bautista. He's great. And then Grayson Rodriguez, their youngest pitcher, is coming onto the scene, and it's just really been really, really fun to watch. They're just playing with confidence. And when you have a baseball team play with confidence behind themselves, that no matter who they play, they're going to win. It's unstoppable, but it is really fun to watch. And Baltimore is a great baseball town. We forget about those teams like Cal Ripken Jr. He was on the Orioles for so many years, and so many times they've ran into the Yankees in the playoffs or the Royals when the Royals got hot, and they just ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. So who knows? It could be their year, but it's really fun, and it's impressive that they're able to do that in the AL East.
Yeah. And it could be their year. You and I were talking about we're freaks. We watch MLB like year round. Yeah. So we're already talking about standings. We're looking, we're like, okay, so really outside of like the Nationals, the A's, the White Sox, those are really the bad teams that are in the MLB. Every other team has 20 plus wins. Right. It's like you might be sitting there thinking like, well, the Rockies like 20 and 28, aren't they bad? Like, no, not like they're 8 games below 500. They're struggling. But again, it's only June. That's the flip side of that argument. Like it's only June. Teams have done much crazier things than coming back from an 8-game differential. Like there's a lot of good teams. The MLB is super wide open. And with that super wide openness, you do have some familiar faces. I promise you we wouldn't talk about them too much, but I didn't promise you we wouldn't talk about them at all. A team that everyone slept on. I had people betting me before the season that the Dodgers would not beat the Padres in series. And here we are, back-to-back series. The Dodgers beat the Padres. Everybody thought that they were done. Everybody thought that it was over. And yet the Dodgers, again, they're just third best record silently, quietly with a younger team. James Outman anchoring the rookies, bringing up kids. We had Stone go today. Right. My boy Bobby Miller is going to be on the bump tomorrow. When you look at some of the kids that they're bringing up, when you look at the fact that Bush has already come up, when you look at the fact that really in terms of hitting, in terms of getting large hits and doing the thing, a guy like Will Smith, who's still extremely young, is just as much a leader on this team right now as a Mookie Betts or a Freddie Freeman. They're finding ways to do it, Big Z, and they're surprising a lot of people because a lot of people had this team finishing second in the West. A lot of people said this team is going to win about 90 games.
I think most people had them finishing second in the West. And I mean, they're probably they're surprising Dodger fans to be honest.
Yeah,
they're doing a lot better than a lot of people thought. Like you said, man, I think the key is Will Smith. With him in the lineup, I think they've lost like 2 games or something all year, like some crazy stat. The guy, I in my opinion, is their MVP, him and Freeman. They've been really, doing what they need to do. Max Muncy, yes, he has a low average, but compared to last season, he was hitting like, in the 130s, but the guy, he's still walking. And he's hitting bombs. He's leading the league in home runs. So at least he's bringing something to the team. May not be a high average, but again, to be honest, we don't expect a high average from Muncy. We want him to get on. We want him to hit home runs. Like they're doing what they need to do. They're sticking with their identity. The thing that's worrying me is their injuries are kind of starting to stockpile a little bit. So we got May on the IL, who did avoid a major injury. So thank goodness. With an elbow, but he's on the IL for him at least a month. Julio's on the IL with a hamstring injury. So I just hope that these young guys, like you said, like Stone, like Bobby Miller, I hope that they can really weather the storm while these guys are recuperating on the IL. But it's been fun to watch. They're coming through in the clutch a lot. They lost a tough series against the Cardinals, but let's be honest, as Dodger fans, we know how tough the Cardinals are to play. No matter what their record is, the Cardinals always give us a tough time, especially in St. Louis. So it's and they're on fire right now. Arenado's just playing out of his mind. But it's been fun. It was cool to see Freeman hit a home run and then a go ahead hit tonight against his former team in Atlanta. So, and Atlanta is the second best team, or actually technically by record or by winning percentage, the best team in the NL. Tied with the Dodgers. But for us to take game 1 in that series is pretty impressive. So look for them to keep on rolling. Then we got the Nationals, the Rays, and then the Yankees coming to town. So it's going to be a fun few series coming up.
Yankees, that's going to be a big series. You already know every time they come together. And then a team that you saw coming, this is the last team we'll talk about tonight. But the Texas Rangers, just a team that just has been slowly making moves every year. Every year it seems like they add a piece. Every year it seems like they add a couple guys. Every year they're supposed to compete. But could this really be the year they actually compete?
You know, they are second in the league with in run differential plus 105.
Wow.
You know, Corey Seager was hurt for about 3 weeks. So you wouldn't think that they're playing that well with Corey Seager being out. So I can't say it's all Corey Seager. If you guys don't know, I love Corey Seager. I'm not ashamed of it. I love him forever. But Jacob deGrom, their pitching staff has been above average. Andrew Heaney went over there from the Dodgers. He's been doing really, really well. Adolis Garcia, one of their outfitters, their left fielder, is just balling out. Like he has hit, I think, like 8 home runs in the month of May. He's kind of picking up where he left off last year. It's really fun to watch. Their catcher Heim is really good. And then Jung, their third baseman, is a young guy who is just balling out as well. He's hitting like 260 with like 11 homers and like 40 something RBIs. He's doing very well for them. I think that he's come onto the scene a little quicker than people thought. And that's just a team that's really stockpiled draft picks as well, because they've been so bad the last 10 years that they've been able to rebuild their farm system, and they're doing a great job. And now those guys are getting a chance to actually perform in the big leagues. And look, you know, you got the Houston Astros right behind you, but with this expanded playoff system that MLB has now, like you're looking at a 95% shot of making a playoff spot. And if you win the division, obviously that's what your main goal is. But if you can make the playoffs with the team that you've assembled, like you have a chance. And I think that, the Rangers are going to definitely be looking into getting a playoff spot at the end of the season. I think that they definitely have a good chance of it.
100%, man. 100%. They look fantastic. Like you said, the fact that they're able to do it. Marcus Semien just out there still balling. A lot of people forgot about that guy. Yeah. Just balling, just doing his thing. Baseball is fun. This is going to be a real fun year. I mean, even in the West, you got the Diamondbacks right behind the Dodgers. You got the Padres trying to live up to their hype. AL East, you got the Yankees, the Red Sox. They're always fun. They're chasing teams that are, quite frankly, they took the division from them. A few years ago, you didn't think that the Yankees or Red Sox could ever lose that division. And yet here we are. Tampa Bay's balling. The Orioles are balling. You got so many teams that are going to be in the hunt. You got expanded playoffs. So that's going to be exciting. That's going to be super fun to watch. I can't wait. I literally cannot wait for October baseball to be here. It's going to come a lot quicker than people think. Summer flies by. All of a sudden, we're going to be talking about Christmas. Just give us some time. You know what I mean? I'm excited for it. Big Z.
Football.
And football. Some foosball. We're going to have some fantasy football news coming for you. Oh, dude, it's going to be fun. We're going to keep it right here with Brevity Sports. Big Z, say bye to the people.
People, tune into the finals. It's going to be fun. Denver versus most likely Miami. And we got the Florida Panthers going to take on the Knights, most likely. Those are all predictions, but for sure the Nuggets are there. Enjoy it while it lasts, because, this is the best time in these two sports. And we're going to have a lot of baseball coming at you guys soon. We're going to flip-flop it a little bit, and it's going to be fun. But thank you for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it.
We always appreciate the listeners. Tell your friends, tell your family. We are Brevity Sports. Please tell everybody to come listen to us, subscribe, give us likes, whatever it is. And again, if you're not watching, you're missing out. And honestly, you kind of already did miss out, because the earlier rounds are still my favorite, because there's always something on. Like when the NBA playoffs started and the NHL playoffs started, I had something to watch every stinking night. It was like boom, 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 games back to back to back. Here's this game, here's that game, just jumping back and forth between two channels all night. It was fantastic. So we're just about to be down to 4. You still got a long way to go. I think the Stars will battle back on some level. Knights, I think, if they swept, I'd be a little bit surprised. I think probably 6 is a little bit more realistic. Having said that, I think the Panthers are going to get it done. They're going to get some much needed rest while the Knights and the Stars finish duking it out. And like you say, the Nuggets will take on the Heat. That thing is done. I can't wait for that. This has been a fun episode. Thank you again for listening. Tell your friends, tell your family. We will end this as we always do with a very simple thank you for listening.